Hello model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week I'm going to feature a new build that I'm starting here, and it's kind of a danger of doing this channel and sharing my modeling experiences with you and reminiscing about old builds and looking at some of my older builds as I pulled out and showed you guys, and then constantly thinking about some of the ones I used to have and that I no longer have, and this is one of those. And I'm sure many of you can relate and think about builds that you did a long time ago that you may or may not have, and you kind of miss them or you don't quite remember all the experiences. Because for me, having the finished build in my hands, holding it and looking at it, brings back memories of building it, and I can think about what's going on, and maybe I had a friend over and we were building together, or listening to music. And most of the time, or the early ones, it was just me and my brother. Really didn't have any friends that sat there and built them with me, but got a number of them, and remembering going to the store with my mom and having to just choose one sometimes, and that was a chore as a kid. But it was always fun. But she made sure, if I bought one, I had to build it and complete it, then it was okay, we can get another one next time we're at the store. If I was good, did my chores, all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I went through. And I had a number of kits when I was a kid, and I remember moving out, I'd had like, I think 80 something build-ups, and most of those didn't survive. And I know there were others that I built, like this one. I know I built this one, and I built the Daytona as well, and which I have that kit now also, but the original builds I don't have. And most of my street rods I don't have. I know I'm featuring another one this weekend of a street rod that I do have from that time period, but most of those I don't have. My exotics, I don't have any of those exotics. I know I had this Testarossa. I think I had another larger scale Testarossa. I know I had a couple of Countach's. Ferrari 288 GTO, that was a tester's kit. I had that, and I fully enjoyed all of them, and I remember building some of them. So when it comes to this one, and it's funny because I'll get into how my month went for October, and some of the tragedy that kind of happened around our house, or mishap. I don't want to say tragedy because it really wasn't that bad, but it's funny now, but not when it was happening. But anyway, because something happened in my house, I had to tear apart my entire model room and get all my model kits out. So while that was happening, I can go through some of the ones that were buried in the back, haven't seen them in years, and this is one of those where I knew I had it, and it's on my list. I actually have inventories of lists and photos of the box art, so when I'm posting photos of box art, that's all on my computer, so that I can reminisce and remember that I have it, or even if I have the kit, which version I have, because that's why my original intent of taking pictures of box arts. And then when I built them, I like to have a picture of the box, but I don't keep the boxes. So like this one, this is actually the original release. Now I bought this kit used, kind of used. It wasn't really started, kind of was, kind of wasn't, but this is the original issue from Monogram, and it is from 1987, and it is of course the Miami Vice Testarossa, which I didn't get to watch a whole lot of TV as a kid. It's funny, it's 87 but also has copyright 84, but growing up as a kid, my dad watched the TV there, so there wasn't a whole lot of TV that I was allowed to watch, so I didn't really see Miami Vice, or I've seen a couple episodes of the show. So, Knight Rider I've seen, Dukes of Hazzard I've seen, but didn't really get to follow and watch all of the episodes. But this car, I always thought this was a neat car in Testarossa. Never seen one in person as a kid. First exotic I remember seeing was the Countach on the movies from Cannonball Run. That was the first time I seen that car, and that was, whoa, that's an awesome looking car. And seeing posters of it, having that kind of stuff. And this car I thought was really cool too. I even had a remote control of a Testarossa. I remember that. And it wasn't a very good one, but I remember having that, getting that for Christmas. And so the car just has some fond memories, even though it's, I thought the 288 GTO was a nicer looking car than this one. The Countach was a good looking car. When the F40 came out, I had one of those kits. That one's gone too. Really liked that car. A couple of Countachs that were really hard to build, but none of those survived. So when I was reminiscing, I was, decided I'm going to build this one. It's a quick, easy kit, and I don't have too much to fix. Now, I did get started, and I started fitting the body. I did not do any painting on this. As a matter of fact, I only have one sink mark, and that's what this putty is there's a sink mark that's right around all of this. So I filled that with putty, but I started fitting everything. Now, there's some serious mold lines that are right here that I sanded away and shaped, and I'll see how they are when I shoot some primer on it. But this is going to be done as the Miami Vice car. It's going to be white. I'm going to build it as the Miami Vice car, which there are 2, 3, depending on how you do the math or count. There's, real quick, there's actually 2 Testarossas that Ferrari had gave the producers of the show to try and get them to get rid of the Daytona. It's kind of a neat story. I'll save that for another video. But they gave him 2 Testarossas, but since the original car was black, they gave him black ones. So the Testarossa was featured in black in 1 or 2 episodes, and then the show, because there was a lot of night things and you really couldn't see it, they decided they wanted to paint the cars white. So the 2 Testarossas were not factory white, they were black. So they repainted them white, and the reason I bring that up is in some of my reference pictures and pulling up the original cars, the interiors were similar but not exactly the same from what I am seeing in reference photos. And then they all had the flying high mirror, which is pictured on the box here. Even though Monogram actually gives you both sets of mirrors, and there's a completely different set of mirrors for mounting it down low here, and then there's the flying high mirror, which is in the instructions a little later. So that's the only option you get. Here's the flying high mirror. So they showed here, and then they show the lower mount dual mirrors, but the flying high mirror was only on the one side. And of course they had that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to pin it because I could see myself easily knocking that off. So that's going to get pinned. But the kit itself is fairly simple. I remember it being a pretty easy kit to build, so not a whole lot of effort and drama there. So I did have a little bit of tire mark damage, so my tires did manage to do some damage. Now, being the early version, this actually has Goodyear on the tires, which is nice because the reissues don't. They got more plain tires. But that's about the only difference between the 2 kits. I'm not sure about the decal sheet. There's really not much decals to this kit. Here's what you get. And I really only used 3 of them. 1 license plate, which that's the actual one that was used in the show. Then you got Ferrari and Vice. And then, of course, the one on the front and one on the back. And they don't give you the Ferrari emblem that goes back here. I don't know why. It'd be nice if they did, but they don't. It's molded in there. And then they give you these ones that go up on the fender right here, which Miami Vice did not have that on their car. And I don't know if it was an option on the real car, and I don't know if they had them when they were black. Didn't really look into that, but I know they didn't have them when it was painted white. So whether or not they were there or removed. But got the decals, and like I said, I bought this kit used, so it was a good score, but it did have a little bit of damage. The interior tub, which I did start painting, which I'm doing the 2-tone beige, which that's what's interesting on the 2 cars, the 2 factory ones. There was a 3rd car. The 3rd Testarossa was a stunt car, and they actually bought a Pantera, cut it up, and put a Testarossa body on it. So that's car number 3. But the 2 cars, they both have the beige interiors, but when you see the cars today, especially the very well-known one that's still in the US, it has black carpets. But a lot of the pictures of the other car, which I understand is now in the UK or somewhere else, it still exists also, but it's just not as prominent on the internet or finding info on it, but had brown carpets, the darker brown carpets. So that's why I'm going here, because some of the pictures you see and some of the footage you see when they're getting in and out of the car, you can see the brown carpets. So I'm doing the brown carpets. But the consoles were black, and then the dash was black, so I painted the dash black. And then the door panels, you had the tan up here, this was black, and then this carpet could be black or it could be the brown. So I'm doing it as a 2-tone. So I kind of painted those. Now, one of my door panels, this one has the tire marks. You can see it right there. And then there's also some tire marks right here, and I sanded them just trying to fix them a little bit, but I got those taken care of fairly well. I'm not stressing this build out too much. The main piece that got it was this overhead console piece. It had some right there, so I sanded it and took care of it, but I just brushed the black in there, did the highlights and the Motolo chrome right there on the mirror because there's no chrome there, and just painted that, even though you're really not going to be able to see this once it's in there. I mean, I'll know it's there. You'll see it in video during assembly. And then another decal they don't give you is the emblem on the horn button. So I painted that yellow and blacked it out. And the seats came out pretty nice. So I'm pretty happy with those. So the interior is mostly ready. The only thing I got to do, a small section of this is actually body color. That should be white. And then the grading in here will be black. But it's tucked in under the window. I could probably get away with just blacking the whole thing out because you'll barely see it, but I'm just going to try to make that accurate. But just detailing and brush painting it out and kind of having fun, just not really stressing the details, but just making it as nice as I can without going crazy on it. So put that there. So there's the most of the interior. Now, speaking of glue marks or body damage, I got kind of lucky. There's a small amount, if you can see it, I sanded right there. I did have damage right there from the tire, real small piece. Thankfully it wasn't any over into any of these fins, so I didn't have to do anything on those fins. By the way, I'm not looking forward to blacking those out, but I think I'm going to do it. I remember my original one, I didn't paint the body. Matter of fact, a lot of the original kits, early kits that I bought that were Monogram, that were molded in color, I didn't paint them. So I know my Super B really didn't get painted, this one didn't get painted, but it made it easy because I brushed the black in there. And then any of the black I got on these fins, I simply took my razor blade X-Acto knife and scraped the paint away so that you can see the white again. And it worked out pretty good, but not quite to my current standards. So it'll be kind of interesting how I'm gonna paint the black in there and try not to get the paint on the fins there. But you know, painting this is gonna be kind of fun, blacking this all out, and then seeing that emblem actually stays black. It's not chrome. Some reason the early Testarossa is not. When I see the later ones, the 512 seem to have the chrome emblem on them. I don't know if you know, most of them have the black, but on the actual Miami Vice car, that's just black. They just didn't have anything to really highlight that. So I find that kind of strange, but pretty cool. So this is getting close to getting to primer. And then I put the hinge on, which is kind of a weird way to do it. They did the hinge that way. That's according to Monogram's instructions. You glue it on there and then you glue it on there once it's painted and assembled. So those are coming along. One thing I'm not looking forward to is painting these lenses. These are going to be fun because there's red on there, there's amber on there, and then there's the clear on the tail lights. Then the front marker lights, just the portion on the top is amber, just like you're seeing in the box art here. But the taillights, at least, they're hidden behind the black grating, so if they don't come out very well, they're pretty well hidden. But I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem for me. But at least, you know, they're kind of hidden. And you can see on the back here, they painted that whole section body interior color on the box art. So that's not right, but that's what they did on the box art. And then thankfully, my glass is fine. Just got to do some blacking out, but looks like they shaded it, which is nice. And speaking of that, this like frosting, it kind of looks like that's paint. Like Monogram actually did that with paint. Or maybe the previous builder did. I'm not really sure because I find that kind of odd. And then also my chrome tree, kind of the same thing. It's a bit frosty. It's not quite as chrome. And the one wheel that's knocked off, I was playing with it, and the frosting kind of polishes off because the cap itself is chrome. And they're, on the Miami Vice cars, there's no emblem in there, but this actually has a molded in emblem with the horse in it, the prancing horse. So I'll probably paint those yellow and try and get some black detail on that prancing horse. But I got to paint the whole wheel silver other than the cap. The cap's chrome. So not looking forward to that part, but it'll come out. And then last that I haven't shown you, here's the chassis, which is pretty much completed. And same thing, I didn't do any detailing on it. These were bent. I straightened them out, but they keep wanting to bend. But once the body's on, you really don't notice it anyway. But there's the Ferrari's flat 12, and then the underside of it. I didn't really go crazy on detail painting because it's pretty basic, but it tells you to paint the shocks red, so I painted the shocks red, painted the exhaust more of a gunmetal, and then did the steel on the tube mufflers or cats, and then on these, I'm not sure if they're cats either, but it kind of calls out, tells you to paint those. And then I did all this in gunmetal, which I thought it'd be brighter silver, but then on the real car it's not, because you can see it through the grating in the back. And then I painted the red here and then wiped it so you can see the silver, so it says Ferrari Testarossa on there. And a little bit of blue highlights here. And of course you gotta have the red valve covers. I mean, Testarossa literally means redhead. But I didn't add any spark plug wires or any extra detail there. Just simple masking and painting, and picking out some of the highlights. Like I put the black belt on there and carefully brushed it, and after all that's said and done, you really can't see it. And especially when you got the engine cover on, you're going to be seeing it from this angle, so it's really hard to see. But then the oil filter, that's red, and it's in a kind of an odd spot, but that's where it is on the real car. But I'm liking the way this is coming out, and this will be a quick build. I got to keep my hands off of this area because it's very tempting to hold that, and my fingerprints tend to rub the paint off. But that's exposed. You got to see that on the real car because it's right here. So I got to remember, try not to get on that, and I may have to touch it up sooner or later. But anyway, that's kind of enough of that. But this one's a fun build for me to reminisce and go over. And real quick, just to get into my tragedy story that kind of prompted me to have to undo everything. So October is a very busy month for us. My son's birthday is the 7th, my birthday is the 30th, and we got a lot of things going on. And we also took a vacation, so we spent a week and we went to Disneyland for 4 days, took my son. So right in the middle of all that. So, and then I had some issues with my truck, so I had to do some repairs and some extra money spent there that I wasn't expecting. But in our crazy cleaning nights, or night I should say, right before my son's birthday party, which we had on the 3rd, we were cleaning the house, and it was getting really late at night, and my wife was cleaning one of the bathrooms, the bathroom that's actually right on the other side of my desk here, and she accidentally knocked the picture frame off, and it sheared the plumbing to the toilet, which is under pressure, and immediately started to pour all the fluid. I got some pictures, so I'll post a few pictures here real quick of the damage. So it sheared off and it started pouring water into the bathroom. So we panic, and she's like, I need help, please help me. And I come running in there and I see what's going on, and I'm like, all right, we just need to turn the valve off. Well, it sheared on the back side of the valve. It was the PVCP piping, the plastic stuff that my house uses, and it sheared it pretty good. And so the valve is on the wrong side, so that left run outside, turn the master water pressure off. Now this was like 1:30 in the morning, so I mean, my son had gone to sleep and we're cleaning the house. And the next morning is the party, and here we are, no plumbing. So we spend all the time cleaning up the bathroom, getting all the water off the floor. I go into the garage, pull out my shop vac, suck up all of the water. We're vacuuming outside the bathroom where it got on my carpet, and I'll have a photo of that. And we're cleaning it all up, and my son doesn't wake up for any of this. I can't believe it. We get it all done. So then next step is, all right, let's start letting it dry, and we'll figure it out in the morning. Let's go to bed. By now it's like 2:30 in the morning. Then the master closet hits me. There's photos and comic books and stuff in there that I can't get wet, and that's on the opposite side of the bathroom, and that carpet's probably wet. And sure enough, I dig that stuff out. That carpet is wet, but not very bad. All that stuff is fine. Dig it all out. Come the next morning, party's happening, friends are coming over. We have no plumbing. We can't flush the toilets. Nothing. So while the party's happening, the plumbing company is coming. They're sending a guy. It's Saturday. And so the guy comes here, and he's fixing the bathroom while we're having our party. I got a bounce house out in the backyard and everything. And we're cleaning our food and prepping with no water. So we, borrowing buckets of water and going to my neighbor. I have great neighbors, using their kitchen sink and getting it all ready. Sorry, this is going on. I'm kind of speeding it up. And during the party, my brother goes, hey, what about your models? Like, oh crap, that closet faces the bathroom as well. And it's floor to ceiling, nothing but model boxes. And sure enough, I slide the door open, pull this table away, and I could see the bottom layer is wet. I'm like, oh crap. And the boxes are starting to collapse for the weight of all the models on top of it. So don't recommend you storing them that way. So of course that sets me into a bad mood. It's like, all right, leave me alone. I'm going to need to be in here and get everything unpacked. So pull this table away, fold it up, collapse all this, start unpacking all of those models. And some of those haven't, seen the light of day in 5 or 6 years. So dug them all out. Get to the bottom layers, and yeah, the boxes are wet. Open them all up and see that what got wet. Some of them the instructions got wet, and some of them the decals got wet. Some of them the boxes themselves were wet, and of course the plastic's fine. And so I took all of those boxes, and here's a photo of the Chevelle, my wife's Chevelle. Laid all of the wet ones on top of the hood, and there was probably like 20 to 30 kits. Laid them all out, and then on the roof, you have to squint probably, there's all the decals and instructions that got wet, and some of them are salvageable, some of the decals are damaged, but not a big deal. So they had to sit on my car for a week to dry out the boxes. Like I said, plastic's fine, chrome is fine, and hopefully the decals are fine. I'll probably start 1 or 2 of those that are very questionable here soon. Get all of those. So they spend a week drying. And in the closets, the carpet, they had to spend a week drying. So over a week, all of these models are spread out in this room, and then I spread them out into the living room and everything, because now is perfect time to inventory them, go through them, check them all out. Look at some of these that I haven't opened and forgot what was inside the box, because some of them have extra parts. So that was kind of the fun part, was to go through and actually inventory 400 boxes of kits, because I ended up counting them. And I was literally 2 boxes away of 400 kits in boxes. Not including my resin stash and my rebuilder stash, because all of that was up higher or in totes, and all that's fine. So, but the actual kits themselves. So it's like, all right, had all of that out. So I didn't get to build a whole lot, but I really got to go through and look at some of these kits I haven't looked at in a very long time. So it's fun for me to think about now, but it wasn't really fun at the moment going through it all. But thankfully my carpet's dry, everything is fine. I just had to pay a few $100s for the plumbing bill. I got to fix the drywall. The flooring wasn't damaged enough for my insurance to kick in and start replacing everything, so I'm not going to get any carpet or anything like that like I was hoping. But those are coming, but someday, because we're going to do all that stuff. But anyway, that's enough babbling and my story and everything. But I hope you enjoyed the photos and some of that stuff that I tacked in here, and I'm looking forward to doing this. And it's going to be a quick, easy build, but getting it going here, and some of my other ones are kind of stalled. Not really, because I've got the paint on them, they're decaled, they're ready for clear, but when I clear 3 or 4 cars. So I'm getting close, so that's kind of why I'm starting some of the other ones. But that's really rambling on now. So thank you for tuning in and subscribing, and all of your comments. I really appreciate it, and I'm really curious how you're gonna like these stories. But you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday.